Okay, people. So, man, it feels fitting, right? It feels fitting that this week we look at Oppenheimer. Boy. Okay, so it is written and directed by Christopher Nolan, who also produces the film alongside Charles Roven and Emma Thomas. It's executive produced by Thomas Hayslip, J. David Wargo, and James Wood. Co-produced by Andy Thompson and associate produced by Helen Medrano. Ludwig Göransson took care of the music. Hoyt van Hoytema, cinematography. Jennifer Lame edits the piece. Casting, we have John Pasadera. Ruth de Jean was production design. Art direction, we have Jake Cavallaro, Samantha Engelder, and Anthony Di Parillo. Claire Hoffman and Adam Willis were set decoration, with Ellen Mijinick on costume design. So the cast, and I mean, what a cast. Right? What a frigging cast this was. So Robert J. Oppenheimer is played by Cillian Murphy. His wife, Kitty, is played by Emily Blunt. He's got a brother, Frank, played by Dylan Arnold. Frank's wife, Jackie, is played by Emma Dumont. Right? There's Jean Tatlock, who is connected to Oppenheimer. His paramour. He was with her before Kitty. She is played by Florence Pugh. Louis Strauss, played by Robert Downey Jr. The Senate aide is played by Aidan Erenick. The council is played by Scott Grimes. There's Roger Robb, played by Jason Clarke. Thomas Morgan, played by Kurt Coulier. Gordon Gray, played by Tony Goldwyn. Ward Evans, played by John Gowans. Lloyd Garrison, played by Macon Blair. Patrick Blackett, played by James D'Arcy. Niles Boa, played by Kenneth Branagh. Senator McGee, played by Harry Gronier. Chairman Magnuson, played by Gregory Jabara. Senator Bartlett, played by Ted King. Senator Pastor, played by Tim DeKay. Senator Scott, played by Stephen Huska. Albert Einstein, played by Tom Conti. Right. Isidore Rabi, played by David Krumholtz. Werner Heisenberg, played by Matthias Schollwaffer. Ernest Lawrence, played by Josh Hartnett. Luis Alvarez, played by Alex Wolff. Rosie Lamantz, played by Josh Zuckerman. Heartland Snyder, played by Rory Keane. Robert Serber, played by Michael Angano. Mary Washburn, played by Sadie Stratton. Hakan Xavier, played by Jefferson Hall. His wife, Barbara, played by Britt Kyle. George Etterington, played by Guy Burnett. Richard Tolman, played by Tom Jenkins. Vanner Bush, played by Matthew Modine. Ruth Tolman, played by Louise Lambard. William Borden, played by David Dasmalchain. Joe Volt, played by Michael Andrew Baker. Leslie Groves, played by Matt Damon. Kenneth Nichols, played by Dane DeHaan. Edward Corden, played by Ollie Hasvicki. Man, it's the cast is just insane, right? Edward Teller, played by Benny Safdie. Um, Hans Berth, played by Gustav Skarsgård. Kurt Giddel, played by James Urbanink. And it's just, boy, I mean, it's fantastic. The cast was fantastic, people. You know, the gist of the story is, okay, let us, um, credit. Okay, we have an issue here. Okay, we can do this. Ooh. Okay. A dramatization of the life story of J. Robert Oppenheimer, the physicist who had a large hand in the development of the atomic bomb, thus helping end World War II. We see his life from university days all the way to post World War II, where his fame saw him embroiled in political machinations. So, this is actually based on the book American Prometheus, which is from Kai Bird and Martin Sherwin. Now, this was fascinating to me. I've read several books on Oppenheimer. I've even read American Prometheus, bought that in 2013 on Audible. And I mean, it's just so interesting, right? Reading about this man, you know, everything that went down, you know, the aftermath, right? And I think it's a perfect story to show that your opinions can change over time, right? The way you see the world, the way you interpret the world, right? Just because you believe in one thing and you're very knowledgeable on that thing doesn't mean you are as smart on other things, right? It's just, there's so much here. There's so much here. And when you think about when this all took place, the world has not changed. Like the world has not changed, right? People try and maneuver to rip people down and destroy their reputations. You know, you're not allowed to have a differing opinion. It's so crazy. It's so crazy that there are examples like this that we do not heed, right? We don't heed them. It's fascinating. Now, at the beginning, I said it was fitting that we took a look at this. And I say that because last week, right? No, actually, it was the week before. I think it was in episode 310. Yeah, episode 310, we looked at Barbie, right? And Barbie and Oppenheimer were embraced as two films that brought people back to the cinema, right? After the pandemic and lockdown and all of that nonsense, people were hesitant of going back to the cinema. And these two films helped do that and were hailed. Now, it's an interesting one, right? Because a load of people will talk about Barbie, but you know, I feel Oppenheimer is the film that sits with me more. Right now, obviously, Barbie isn't made for me, right? It's not made for me. And it's put together well, right? You know what I mean? You can't look at it and go, it's trash or anything like that, you know, because it's not. It honestly isn't. It's a well put together piece. I think Oppenheimer, though, just blew me away. Oppenheimer blew me away. Just the way it's structured. Because we're jumping around different time periods. You know, we're seeing things from different perspectives. jumping between color and black and white. There is so much here. There is so much here. And the other great thing is, it's not trying to paint Oppenheimer as being this golden boy of physics. No, he is a flawed man, right? He's having affairs. Which is everything described in the book, right? Oppenheimer's a bit of a gallus, right? You know what I mean? Which is just like, yo, Jesus. It's like with, power is corrupting, but it is also something that I can get. Oh, not so much power, but notoriety, right? Notoriety and fame can circumvent people's vows, it would seem. Those commitments they make to people. We see it all the time, which is insane. But yeah, the way this is put together was tremendous. It was tremendous. There is a scene in the hearing with Kitty, Robert, and Jean that, I mean, yo, that sequence was ridiculous because we had this, like, it's a very intrusive and personal thing that's going on. So where the way we first get into it and we see Robert, right? Which is a reflection of a previous scene that we've just seen. So we see that, and then the other elements and the look that is given, because you think Robert's hearing all of this, but also Kitty is as well, right? So that just represents what it means to both of them, the impact it's having on both of them. Yo, oh, that was something. That was something. You know what I mean? There's a really good use of sound in this film, right? The sound of, like, marching feet, stamping feet, to really ramp up, the impact of certain things. And then there's one moment when there's nothing. We're in a void. We are in a void of silence. And I mean, that hits you harder than any motherfucking sound can. Right? That was just, oh boy. Right? Oh boy. And then it's just the introduction of sound, right? Some voices, and then the so subtle. It was just perfect. It was just perfectly done, man. And that's why I think this film, like, sits with me more than Barbie, because you know I can look at Barbie and go, oh, that was done okay. I can see what they're doing there. But here we have these moments that are just so profound, right? So, and look, you can't judge them as, side by side things, because they're completely different genres, right? Different approaches, different kind of things like that. I'm only referencing them because they came in this one period, you know? And it's the way the greater world seems to want to talk about them as being this thing. But yeah, Oppenheimer was, and like, the cast, when you look at the cast on paper, it's insane. It's insane. But it's the performances we get. The performances we get. And when you think about the emotional toil, right? That all of these characters kind of represent and go through. So we need to see this cocky, this braggadocious, this shy, this introvert, this remorseful, right? Just all of these sentiments, everything. We need to see this on like Oppenheimer, on Robert, but then just the things on Kitty and Jean, Frank and Barbara, and it's man, like everybody. You can see why Robert Downey Jr. won an Oscar for this film, right? I think he got Best Supporting Actor, right? I believe. And you can see why. He was fucking incredible. Like everyone was. It's like the look Kitty throws at the end. Yo. I mean, yo. Emily Blunt is just insane. Emily Blunt is insane. When you think of the years, I mean, she's been putting in and still turning out performances like this. Right? Mad props to the special effects people, right? The hair and makeup people, because the aging was like, yo, it was so well done. Everything here, it's all about the details. I've talked about this, but films can live and die on detail. And in Oppenheimer, they nailed, oh man, they nailed them. You know what I mean? It was just fantastic, right? And we get these bits where we revisit scenes, but from slightly different angles, slightly different perspectives, which is fascinating, right? The people we meet, like Niels Bohr even, right? And Werner Heisenberg, when you know what these people did, right? We know what these people did, but we're seeing them in this, different context. And it's crazy, right? It's just crazy how, so like people can meet and inhabit these same spaces at certain points in time, but then go on to do this grossly insane shit. You know what I mean? Florence Pugh as Jean Tatlock is just, I mean, that was a great. Florence Pugh has really evolved into this incredible actress, right? I mean, not to say she was terrible or anything like that, but I think we can clearly see this huge growth in the way she tells stories now. You know what I mean? Which is just, whew, right? And, it's kind of crazy. Like her and Downey, they're huge parts of the Marvel universe, right? And people want to kind of diminish that. But how can you when they turn out these performances too? You know what I mean? It's just something. It's something. Like, as I said, look, it's the detail that went into the costumes. The costume doesn't feel right. But the clothes, right? The get up, the attire, everything fits. Everything fits. The sound design, the interactions, the relationships. Again, I've always talked about that, right? The fact that you can watch these films and you don't believe in relationships. You know, relationships are huge in you buying something, right? You have to believe these people are a couple, these people are friends. Like there's this undercurrent of animosity between these characters that really does have an incredible impact on something that you watch. And with Oppenheimer, we do not we do not skimp on anything. I mean, even the time. I mean, this was a long film, right? This was a long film. It's nearly 3 hours, which when you look on paper, you're like, yo, damn, have I got 3 hours? Have I got 3 hours to watch this? I'm engrossed from beginning to end. Right now, as I said at the start, I am fascinated by Robert Oppenheimer, right? I've read several books on him. But even with that, right, there's, people and places and things, times in history which fascinate me. But then you watch a film about it and it's just like, oh. But here, from start to end, I was engrossed, right? There, you're just pulled in. You are gripped. Like, you know what happens, essentially. You know what I mean? You know the bomb was dropped and all of this stuff, right? But you're just like, yo, what happens next? Where are we going here? Oh my God, what's this? You know what I mean? It's just so compelling. And the way they just build up the tension, the way they build up the tension and the way they end it, yo, oh my God. Oh my God, it was so fucking great. It was so like they were it, you know, what I mean? Completely different films, but it kind of reminded me of The Recruit. No, not The Recruit, The Departed. The Departed, right? The way I felt in the closing of The Departed was kind of similar to the way I felt with this one, right? Yeah, I mean, I could, but I don't want to spoil anything, give anything away, you know. I just, man, I just highly recommend you checking this out if you haven't already. You know, it's just incredible. It's an incredible piece of work. This is a film I would own, right? This is a film I would own. You know, sometimes you'd be like, I enjoyed it, but you're not going to watch it again. I would watch this again. You know what I mean? Definitely. Because it's so fucking good. It's so fucking good. Man, I just applaud everyone involved. Right? This is one of those ones where you wish you had an opportunity to talk to the motherfuckers that created it. Because so many questions, man. So many questions. But it's incredible. Right? Every aspect of Oppenheimer is incredible. Like the hype is real. You can understand why all the awards, everything. People, go see Oppenheimer. You will not be disappointed.